Welcome back, players. I'm Jack with 36 Cancel, and this is Coco the Wise Cat, and as of right now, the newest set on the block is Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Right before the set came out in English, I made a small set preview video, and then while I sleeved up my first build, I did a little impromptu talk about what I was making. I did, however, promise during that horrible off-the-cuff rambling that I would make an actual deck tech for a Rascal build, and today I'm here to deliver. Because this is a deck we don't want to let pass us by. Even a few weeks after the release, the hype doesn't seem to have died down. People are still talking about how this deck could change the English meta, and as of right now, a lot of the big double rares are sold out across the internet, and when they do go up for sale, oh boy are they expensive. So for your sake, players, I hope you got a deal on what you have, or find a deal on what you don't yet own. I know I had to break the bank a little to put this together, but so far it's been well worth it. So what exactly did I put together? Well, let's have a look. I can hear a collective groan from the meta players already. Yes, I did end up changing my original test build to the standard standby package with the Nautica finisher. When I first put this deck together, I was really dead set on running both the Mai package and the standby Koga and Rio set. And while I still plan on playing with Mai, I think she deserves her own dedicated deck where this awesome toolkit doesn't have to compete for resources with a totally different game plan. Both top ends are super good, but I don't think I was ready to admit that I should build two different decks if I wanted to use them both. And my wallet still isn't ready. But anyway, I do have this, and the Mai deck isn't too far off. So for now, let's just focus on what's in front of us. This deck, with some small changes made for personal preference and local meta, is the basic form of the meta Japanese Bunny Girl build. It's running the level 1 standby combo, both healing early plays, some beefy Koga level 2s, the Koga Rio meat shields, and the Nautica finisher. A lot of Bunny Girl decks end up taking this basic shape, and some, like my earlier attempt, do play the Mai finisher instead of the Nautica. So let's take a closer look at how this deck works by breaking it down at each level. And every deck is built on its foundation, the level 0 game. And I have one word for you, players. Tech. This level 0 game is all tech. Let's check out all the cool things it can do, starting with the small-time high school idol, Nautica. Nautica is our resident runner for the set, and she's a double rare that makes her way into seemingly every deck. And it's no wonder. She's a 2k mill runner that gets plus 1k on your turn, no questions asked. Right now, she's one of the strongest mill runners in English, and she's pretty much the cornerstone if you're laying down the bricks to build a Rascal deck. But Nautica has another techie level 0. In red, she has a 2k base that during your opponent's draw phase lets you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's level 1 or higher, she bounces back to your hand. Now, there are a lot of reasons why this is good. First off, the chances are good, with a 50% chance in most decks for her just to be a free card. Second, we can clock her next turn and fix for our primary color. But most of all, she's a really good combo with our runner Nautica. Not only does she top check to make sure the milled run trigger is good to go, but if she does bounce back, she opens up the center stage for more mobility. These two Nauticas form a formidable and super clutch frontline, and it's easy to see why Rascal's level 0 really shines. Speaking of shining though, let's move on to the shop promo, and this is easily one of the best shop promos we've ever gotten in English. Summer Memories Sakurajima Mai. She's base 2k, and when she comes in, you can choose a character in your hand and put it into your clock. Then you can top check 3 for any card, add it, and pitch the rest. Now, like a lot of tech cards, she's good for a lot of reasons. First, the top check is free and can be done on turn 0. Second, you can grab a climax or an event. And third, she's both color fixing and leveling you on command during the main phase, which is pretty damn convenient. She'll fish for your combo, mill your deck, fix your clock, and level you up. Honestly, what more do you want to level 0 to do? She might not be one of our primary colors, but she's just good enough for me not to care. Again, she's one of the best shop promos that has come out in English, and I really like what she does for the deck. Okay, so let's move on to the rest of the kit. Next up, we have the set's drop searcher, Shoko. She also mills 2 on play, and if you hit a climax, she gives any character plus 1500 power. Pretty handy, and she mills. You pick the order of her on-play effects, so you can set it up however you like. More decks are including the classic drop searcher nowadays, which has always been a staple in Weiss Force sets, and Shoko fits the bill for whatever we need. Also, she green fixes, which, as you'll see as we get up in levels, is important. Next, appearing as a one-of and filling a flexible slot, we have a trial deck Mai. When she dies, you can pay 1 and clock yourself to top check 3. I just kinda like this card, and it self-replaces. But if you are going to try to fit something else in, this may be the card that's the most malleable part of the level 0 kit. And finally, for some brainstormers, we have Shoko again. This time in blue. She's a tap self-searching brainstormer, which is always pretty good. And then when you play a climax, you can give a character plus 500 power and plus 1 level until the end of turn. So the nice thing is that she can save your characters from reversers. She's not the best brainstormer I've ever seen, but she's good, and she's blue, which helps us fix colors. Because remember, this is a 3-color deck with 7 off-color level 0s. We're living a little dangerously, and after more testing, I may mess around with the numbers a bit, but so far I've been happy with it. Luckily for us, we really only need 2 colors for our level 1, and honestly, it's mostly red. This is because we're running the Kaede standby combo. Kaede and Nasuno are a generic 5-5 that can't side attack, and when you have the standby climax, they salvage on reverse. Now, she's not big at all, and not much in the set will get her to a respectable power for a reverse you can bank on, but you'll catch some level 0s and weaker level 1s off guard. If you get a salvage, great, but mainly she's there for the potential advantage generated while using a standby climax, because Rascal has some insane standby targets, and that's what this deck is all about, to be honest. Amazing standbys, great early plays, and very scary board states. And the other level 1 body we're running is one of those awesome standby targets. This green Shoko is a 1-1 with the same power as Kaede, but she can't become reversed by cost 0 or lower characters, so she's immune to 90% of level 1 or lower characters you'll see on the field. Shoko has a ton of staying power, so you can keep padding your hand. Now, it's not like SAO Standby, where you're executing a combo at level 0 starting the game with a 1-1 on the stage, though that's still not bad. Shoko isn't the main dish for Standby, but if you trigger a Standby climax before you hit level 1, she won't disappoint. And hey, even if you hard play her, a lot of the time a 1-1 that can't be reversed by cost 0s is going to do the job and do it well. Now, Shoko also makes an appearance with her 1-0 2k backup from the set. The deck definitely has excellent backup candidates, but you'll see most of them later. And by later, I mean now, because it's time to move on to the level 2. First up and filling our role of the 2-2 with 2 soul to stand by is Mind Reader Tomoe Koga. She has no other special abilities other than getting plus 1k for every character, so she's an 11k meat stick. But when you're running a standby climax, that's more than good enough reason to run her. The fact is, a 2-2 with 2 soul at level 1 for free is the same kind of insane value as finding a $30 rare in a $1 rare box. It's pretty much impossible to deal with for most decks, and even if you do, the cost isn't worth it considering your opponent put it onto the stage for free. If there's one thing Standby SAO taught me, you just can't argue with this kind of stage presence. So here she is, large and in charge. But she's not the be-all end-all of level 2. We've got some tech conclusions to go over quick, so let's get in there. First up, the first of the 2-2-1 red Mai's in the set, on set, Sakurajima Mai. She can't be chosen by your opponent's effects, and she's an early play bomb. She's there for exactly what you need her for, and not much else. And then we have responding unenthusiastically Ryo Futaba. She's a 2-1 3500 backup, plain and simple. Ryo is here because she's the highest power backup in the set, and plus 3500 is devastating to any character battle. It's in here for that key turn where your opponent is swinging their finishing game into yours, and I promise it will hit like a truck, because as we move on to level 3, we'll see just what kind of damage adding 3500 power to a certain character can do. Because guess what time it is? Yep, it's the top end. And as you can see, we've got a pretty diverse package here. The level 3 in Rascal is among the most techy in English and generates advantage and finishing power in a lot of different ways. But it also has the standard inclusion of the early play healer, which when combined with standby makes for a very scary stage. In fact, it has 2 of them. So let's start there. First up, we have Dreaming Girl Shoko Makinahara. She comes out early on 2 or less climaxes, gets plus 2k on your turn, and heals. She's a generic early play healer, but those are pretty much always good because of the 2 soul tempo and healing they bring out just on the merit of being what they are. And hey, 11k on your turn is pretty big if Koga has taught us anything. Then we have Sunset Sky Kaede Azusagawa. Clocking in at 8500 power, she's not huge for an early play, but she comes out on 4 more other characters, which is a pretty good condition. And of course, she heals, but then she also lets you top check, and if you see a level 1 or higher character, you get to put it into your stock. So roughly 50% of the time, she only costs 1 to play. This is a great early play, one of the best out there, and it's no wonder that I had so much trouble finding her online. Laying down a Shoko, then laying down a Kaede since you have another character out at that point, and then potentially paying 3 stock to heal twice and have 2 bodies with 2 soul. What a play. As someone who's made that in the past, then used standby, I'll tell you that this is stupidly good. But speaking of standby, let's move on to the deck's standby targets since you're not really looking to standby your early play healers. We have Demon Kohai Tomoe Koga, a back row level 3, perfect for standing by in that back row slot. First off, she gives everything in front of her plus 2k, making her just like the Asuna from our SAO standby deck, and we all know how stupid that gets. But if you hard play her, you can pitch to stock heal, which is pretty sick value, so our deck actually has 3 healers. But we're not done healing yet, because Koga has a rather unique ability. If you pay 5 and both players are level 3, both players put the top 4 cards of their clocks into their waiting room. Now personally, I would only ever use this if my opponent was 3-0 and I had a huge excess of stock, or was super scared of dying, but just the fact that you can do it is pretty awesome. This card is already good in standby and good on its own, but being able to swing the tide like that on a stick is hot fire. But we haven't even hit our best standby target yet, so why don't we just get to it? Cool and collected Rio Futaba, one of the scariest level 3s out there. She's only base 8500, but if she's in your middle center, she gets plus 4k. And if you're level 3, she has great performance, which means that when your opponent makes a front attack, instead of fighting the opposing character, your opponent fights her. And whenever she reverses an opponent, you can pay 1, pitch 1, and burn 1. I want you to think about this for a second. So every time you reverse something with her, you get to burn 1, and you can do it on your opponent's turn. And she has great performance, meaning that over 3 attacks, you can burn your opponent 3 times on their turn. Potentially, they could even lose for making all 3 attacks. And keep in mind, we have the Koga back row and the Rio backup. With 2 Kogas and the Rio backup, this Rio will be 19.5k. Not much can get over that. So before you swing into her, I'd open Google Maps and get directions to the closest burn ward. But guess what? We haven't even talked about our finishers. Yeah, because Rio isn't enough. We still have 2 cards to go over. As a tech one of, we have Ephemeral Existence Sakurajima Mai. She's a trial deck level 3 and arguably one of the best level 3s to ever be in a trial deck. She comes in and top checks X where X is characters, which is mainly why she's here. After all, digging for tools is important, but she also has some serious finishing power. When she reverses a battle opponent, you can pay 2 and pitch 2 to burn 5. No climax combo needed. Like Koga's healing ability, this is there for exactly when you need it. Burning 5 is a big number and very cancelable, but sometimes you just need the big dick damage, and Mai in all forms delivers. But sometimes you need a more precision tool, and like a scalpel to your opponent's deck, Notica cuts through to be our primary finisher. When she comes in, you draw 1, pitch 1, then bounce any character on your opponent's stage, so she digs and can really mess up your opponent's board state. Then she has a climax combo. Pay 1 and pitch 1 on attack, and you can look at the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck, choose as many as you want to put in their waiting room, then your opponent shuffles their deck, and this card gets plus 1k until the end of turn. This is obviously to root out climaxes, and makes for a devastating blow to your opponent's compression. This is the same effect as the Ram from ReZero, and of all things, the Granzaboma from the Anti-Spiral deck in Gurren Lagann, and it's a good one. You can straight up pick out 3 or even 4 climaxes with this ability, and pretty much end any hope your opponent has of surviving the turn. So between all these abilities, Notica is a killer finisher, and a great card to end the profile with. But of course, our deck tech isn't quite done. We need to talk about how the Rascal deck actually plays, and here's my take. It's hard. The deck is not by any means a free lunch. Piloting it is a challenge, but if you're up for it, it's extremely rewarding. So how do we master it? Well, let's talk about the basic strategy. The deck is efficient, but it needs a lot of resources. Your burn effects and finishers all cost 1 stock and 1 card, so having stock and hand is key. And you really need to start prepping for this at level 0. This means that instead of trying to kill your opponent's characters, you may want to leave targets for Kaide to reverse at level 1 so you can get those key salvages off. Using the Shoko Drop Searcher and the Mai Clock Checker are things that are really going to need you to know what you're getting and why. Prepping for the next turn, even while attacking and deciding attack order, is very important. You have a good deal of standby targets, and you'll need to know what you'll choose and where you'll put it should you hit a trigger. One hot tip is that once you're level 2, try to attack with the middle center character first, so if you hit a trigger, you have a chance of standbying the Rio to that position, so you don't lose an attack to make that powerful play. A lot of cards in the deck are also very matchup dependent. Against decks that have a lot of characters to cost stock to play, the level 1 Shoko isn't a great investment. And against decks that bomb for power, like the Insane Lenin Gun Gale, or Detonative Damon Megamine from Konosuba, or even just Megamine from Konosuba, the Rio level 3 isn't really going to be your strategy. You also have to be very wary of anti-change, memory backups, and win triggers, so look at what your opponent is playing carefully and try to make smart decisions. Otherwise, you'll end up with a lot of very powerful tools, but no resources to use them. But if you do manage to play your hand correctly, this deck is stupid powerful. So far, it's been super fun and sometimes blowout devastating to play. It's hard, and it's going to take me a while to master it, but damn is it good. I'll say this much. I'm very glad I went to the lengths I did to get my hands on this deck, and if you're feeling crazy, I recommend you players at home do the same. Well, that's going to about wrap it up. After all, the release schedule is relentless this holiday season, and in just a few days we'll be opening boxes for the next set on the roster. Tune in just a few days to see something pretty cool for this next release, but don't let Rascal get swept away in the hype, because this deck is definitely worth the time to practice with. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.